Before we get started, just a quick note, spoiler alert.
And we are adults, and I will try very hard not to use adult language, but this is the warning.
Okay, well, I guess we'll start the episode because I want to hear about this for sure. Oh, we didn't even do our introduction.
I'll just put this back in the front.
Okay, we'll do our introduction. Hello, my name is Jenna. Wait, no.
Your name is Jennifer.
Oh my god. This is why you don't drink wine when you record. Okay. Hi, welcome to Last Library on the Left. My name is Jennifer.
And I'm Sadina. We're a horror review and discussion podcast where we talk about horror in books, movies, and other formats, why we seek it out, and why we need it in our lives.
I don't understand what's going on with Squadcast, but whatever. Anyways, this is what I got you for your birthday. Well, this is one of the things, and it took me a really long time.
Oh my god, you got me the print of it, and I was
Yes.
just talking to you about it with me.
Yeah. It took me forever to find the print.
Oh my god, Jennifer, I'm so excited.
It was the only one I could get printed. The rest of them looked like crap every time I got them printed.
It's huge!
I mean, I think it's like 11 by 18.
I'm so excited. It's the print of the fan art of Johan and Florian from Monster of Ellenhaven, which I just got my baby sister to read, and she liked it, but she was not ready to sit with me as if she were my therapist and figure out why I'm a monster fucker, so that's fair.
Well, I got you 2 prints, so you could take one to work if you wanted to. Yeah.
You know I'm going to.
I knew you were going to, so I was like, she needs to have 2.
Oh my god, that also means, okay, you know what, I'm not gonna embarrass myself. I was gonna say, that means that I can laminate one and then frame one.
Yes, you definitely can, because it will fit through the laminator at the old branch.
Oh my god, I'm so excited.
I'm very upset that I couldn't show you on camera, but at least you know it's coming. And it came out so nice. It printed out so well.
It looks so good. Like, really good.
We've already spent a good amount of time bullshitting before we hit record. So we're going to talk about horror in our childhood and what brought us here.
Yeah.
Right?
What inspired us or what gave us the creeps, but in a way that as a kid, it's like that thrill and makes you, I don't know if curious is the right word, but that thrill in a safe space where you're like, man, that was fun for that split second when I was scared, but then everything gets better.
Yeah. I told Sadina that I had a full list because I was born in 82, so I had an early introduction into horror.
The 4 years between us rarely makes that big of a difference, but this is one of those times where it was a massive difference.
Yeah, because I had to narrow down the list to eliminate all movies except for 2. I think I went mostly animated TV shows with the exception of a couple, and everything before I entered high school. And I still have 13 titles to talk about.
See, that's crazy because I stuck to everything before I hit double digits. And so the most recent anything I have on my list is 1994. That's just like a big difference.
It's such a huge difference. This whole thing came up with a conversation early on when we were at the podcast, because I remember we were in your apartment and we were talking about different episodes that we could do, like music and video games. And I was like, and children's shows. And you're like, what? And I was like, yeah, like Looney Tunes. And you're like, yes. So we'll talk about Looney Tunes too, but that's towards the end because that's where we'll both come together and discuss. I guess I'll go first. Okay, well, I'm going to set the scene for y'all.
You mean like your life?
For my life. This is how it began. My dad owned a tire shop where it was literally just tire repairs. That's all that he did. And that was like the family business back in the 80s. We all had it. My grandfather bought up all of East Aldine and had it. And so they had this really small 6-inch TV, very tiny TV. When we were not at school, we were at the tire shop. And when we got tired of riding our bikes and playing around in the dirt, we would watch this teeny tiny TV. And so this is where I got my introduction to horror, is literally Saturdays watching TV. And it had to be shows that my parents were okay with us watching because they were working. And it also had to be okay enough for my baby sister at the time when she was able to watch TV because she's a scaredy cat. So the first 2 I'm going to talk about are The Munsters, which aired in 1964, and also the black and white Addams Family TV show in 1964.
I actually never saw that until it was running after midnight when I was in high school.
See, and I mean, obviously, I'm watching these in syndication in the 80s, I
Right.
think. But like, I grew up on them, and I still, when they come on, I'm watching them. It was them, and there was I Love Lucy, the Beverly Hillbillies, and I think when MASH came on, I knew to turn off the TV. So these were like my first introductions into horror, which the Addams Family, they were just a loving family. They're rich. They just enjoy the macabre side of things. So I enjoyed them. But the Munsters were my first look at one, supernatural creatures, various supernatural creatures, because what we have Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein, we have a vampire, a werewolf, and then Marilyn. I liked that Marilyn was the niece who lived with them, but she was AKA normal, but she was the odd one out, and they always felt bad for her because she looked like the way she looked.
Wasn't she a little blonde girl?
Yeah, she was like your quintessential blonde poodle skirt wearing type little chick.
Yep.
And I like how she dated normal guys, and she's like, I don't understand why they can't be like you, talking to her uncle and stuff. That was just really funny. I also really loved how when they encountered real people and real people were afraid of them, they were just like, what is wrong with people? They were not fazed by these odd folks, and I loved them. I love the Munsters, and Rob Zombie is remaking it, and I can't freaking wait.
Really? That's what he's remaking? I had heard he was remaking something.
Yeah, he's remaking the Munsters, and I just can't wait. It's gonna be so fun.
It's Rob Zombie, though. Do you think it'll be as kitschy, or do you think it'll get darker?
I feel like it's gonna be darker, and I think that's why I'm excited.
Oh.
Because Rob Zombie, I mean, some of his stuff I can't watch and can't read, but man, they're good.
Yeah, I prefer his music. I don't think I've ever actually watched any of his movies. I'm just not a body gore thing. Y'all know that.
Yeah.
I'm not a body gore. Can't do it.
Those are ones that my sister's like, you gotta watch this, and I'll watch it with her. Some of his books, though, are just so creepy. I can't. But yeah, I'm so excited to see this remake from him, see what he does with it. Hopefully there's not too much body gore. But yeah, Addams Family, same thing. Really enjoyed. I love that they were a loving family, even though they looked different. And I really loved that there was so much comedy in their show. Now, I also enjoyed the Addams Family animated series that ran from 1992. That was a fun one too. Now I feel like I need to buy it so that my daughter can watch it. So the next one I have is Casper, which was created in the 1930s initially, but I just remember seeing it, Casper, in his little cartoons with his three uncles. Three uncles?
Yeah.
And I just enjoyed seeing a friendly main character ghost, because most of the ghosts that I've encountered have been, well, in TV shows, I've not encountered a ghost. Most of them have been creepy, so it was nice to see Casper smiling. The next one that I'm going to talk about is Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? That's a specific set of Scooby-Doo. I didn't realize there were so many different types of Scooby-Doo.
I didn't get into any of the Scooby-Doo.
I got into Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Which premiered in 1969. And I think the reason why I liked it was because this I watched, I would say maybe like 7 or 8 was when I was really watching this. And this one I watched by myself. My sisters didn't watch it too much with me. But the reason why I liked it is because, one, it introduced a lot of creatures, cryptids, supernatural figures, but it also made them scary. And then, you know, once they took off the disguise of the person, it made it not so scary. So it was my first time seeing something being so scary and then realizing, oh, it's not really that scary. Because by this time, I'd already started watching actual horror movies. So I was really scared.
You know, I think that's why I didn't like it. When I eventually got around to getting exposed to it, either in after school shows or through my cousin's cable or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's just the same exact story over and over. It's never the monster. It's like people are the real monsters. And I think it was like, yeah, I'm already aware of that.
Yeah. I remember seeing a Mothman one and I was like, huh, that's so interesting. What is that? But the removal of the disguise was really it for me, because I kept thinking like, oh man, it was a manager. What? It was a fun time. So like I said, at this time I was already watching full on horrors. I'd already been introduced to Freddy and Chucky, and I had in fact watched Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice, and Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Crypt was a family night watch, if you can believe it. We all watched this as a family, yeah. But I could not watch those movies without my parents, so yay for me. There were fun animated versions that were released, and I watched The Real Ghostbusters, which premiered in 1986. I watched the Beetlejuice. I own that DVD set. that released in 1989, and I
Oh, the
have
cartoon.
the cartoon was
Girl,
so
I am
cute.
so jealous. I loved that cartoon.
It's on Amazon. You gotta get it.
But the real Ghostbusters cartoon, not all of it has been released.
No,
It's like the
yeah.
first 2 seasons or something.
Yeah, I wish I could get all of those. And then the third one is Tales from the Crypt Keeper, which aired in 1993. And that's another one that I need to just go on and get because we loved the Crypt Keeper. My middle sister, she's a funny one. She's very sunflowers and rainbows and everything nice. But she also told me that she wished she could cut off her nose so she could be the Crypt Keeper.
Oh.
So, you know, she doesn't have a threshold when it comes to horror. There are no horror movies that she can't watch. She watches everything. But she's also a really great librarian.
You don't have to defend your sister.
It's just, she's just a yin and yang all on her own. The next two that I really loved, these two movies brought the love of Halloween to me. And these are the two movies that I consistently watch every Halloween. The Halloween Tree, which aired in 1993, and that's based off of the Ray Bradbury book. And that one is about 4 children that learn the origins of Halloween customs. And then, of course, everyone's favorite, Hocus Pocus, which aired in 1993. So the last 3 are more 1990s where animation kind of changed. I have down Real Monsters, which aired in 1994. And that was what, Monsters Inc., Monsters University before Pixar was a thing.
Yeah. So I feel like Monsters Inc. and Monsters University, the monsters that are gross are still cute, but in All Real Monsters, they were legit gross.
They were legit gross. They were so gross. I love them. I remember my mom would be like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "All Real Monsters." My mom did not let me watch The Simpsons. I was not allowed to watch Ren and Stimpy. And so how she let me watch All Real Monsters, I don't know, but I watched it. And I loved it because I could totally relate to these monsters and their angst as they're going through school. Just re-talking about these and writing down all the different things. I was like, I need to rewatch all of these shows now. And I need to introduce them to my daughter who has officially asked me for more scary stuff than what she's getting.
Nice.
And I'm like, yes.
You say that now until your child walks up to you and says, "Mom, how do I know I'm not in a coma?"
I know. That TikTok, I was like, that is what she would say to me.
Your child always seems to know when something you've recently discussed that kind of messes you up. She'll bring it up out of nowhere.
Yeah, she's
Child
so in
yours.
tune. She's such a crazy person. And so the last 2 I will bring up before we get into Looney Tunes and Sedina's intros to horror. Are You Afraid of the Dark, which released in 1990. And that's where scary really came into play for me because this was the campfire setting and everyone sitting around telling stories. And this is where I started to branch out into different types of horror because I didn't realize that horror could also be fantasy, sci-fi, it could be thriller, it could be supernatural, it could be a bunch of different things. Are You Afraid of the Dark was legit the one that really brought me into the horror realm and made me really consume horror as far as reading books about horror and watching more in-depth horrors and just soaking it all in, which also got me to read the Goosebumps series. And then my last one that I have here is the Goosebumps TV series that released in 1995 that brought those same stories to life and gave me nightmares. Those are all the TV shows and the 2 movies that were really a big catalyst to me becoming such a horror nut.
Yeah, like the little building blocks.
Yeah.
Okay, so my list is not as extensive, but like we said, I think that it's those 4 years creates a massive difference. In my early childhood, before double digits, we absolutely did not have access to TV programming for some time. In fact, I think the first time I ever watched TV was at a babysitter's house. But for years, the only access to TV that Nadine and I had was PBS and these VHS, which had Muppet Babies and California Raisins and Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yes.
Felix the Cat in black and white, but also like, all of these other classic cartoons from Looney Tunes, but also a Novel Toon.
Yeah.
But Novel Toon used really dark color palettes. Anyway, so I also have Casper the Ghost, but 2 episodes in particular. So Casper was first introduced in comics and the little trades. These 2 episodes were sort of part of the story too. For those that don't know, Casper is a dead child. It's so dark. So the very first one is from 1940. 1945. It's Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Mhm.
And it starts off and he's got his little mansion or whatever. The narrator is like, Casper's not like other ghosts. And then it shows that his family is all waking up to the strikes of the clock. But every time it strikes at midnight, another family member becomes a ghost out of wherever they were sleeping. And so they all kind of pop up out of nowhere. And they're like, yeah, we're going to go mess with the people. And that's really not how they talk, but they're like basically like hyping themselves up to go like haunt the town. And Casper's got this book that is basically how to win friends. But like the clock striking really kind of got me when I was a kid, because I think I was like, oh god, does the clock striking midnight animate the ghosts? Is that when they wake up? But then they go out screaming at the town, and there's this one animated scene where as the ghosts are going up and down through all the townhomes, all the lights are coming on and all the screams are going up and down and up and down. And I really liked that more than I probably should have. Anyway, so Casper is like, you know what? I'm done with this. I can't be with these people anymore. And so he packs up and he leaves his ghost cat. And I didn't put it together until rewatching them for the first time in years. But he's like, I don't have anybody who loves me or who wants to be my friend. And so he leaves behind his ghost cat and goes out into the world. But then all the creatures that he talks to are animals. And I was like, you have an animal? Why? But he scares a rooster and he scares a cow, I think. And he's really depressed. This is the part I always remembered because it was funny at the time. It is dark now, but he's crossing the railroad tracks and he hears a train coming from down in the distance, and he just takes a deep sigh and he lays down across the train tracks, but he's already dead. So when the train goes over him, it just whips him up with the air and he just gets tossed around.
Like a leaf.
Yeah, like a leaf. And he gets like tossed around back onto the tracks, and he's just even more depressed now because he can't end his second life, I guess. And then these two kids who were nearby were like, oh, do you want to come play with us? And he was like, you're not scared of me? And they're like, no, let's go play. So he goes to play, and they introduce him to their mom, and the mom is like, oh no, a ghost. And she hides and she's yelling at him, she's saying really mean things to him. But then the mortgage collector comes and he's like, it's time to pay your mortgage, and he's being an asshole about it. And then he looks at Casper and he's like, you know what, this place is haunted, you can have the whole fucking house. And he leaves. Tears up the mortgage. And then the mom is like, oh, and she like adopts him and dresses him up for school and sends him on his way with her kids. And it was like, oh, that's really sweet. The other one, I was telling Nadine this one because she didn't remember this one in particular until the end, and then she almost started crying. It's really sad.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie, I almost started crying too when I was rewatching it for the first time, and I was like, this is for 6 minutes, this shit goes on for longer than it should.
Yeah.
It's called There's Good Booze Tonight, which phrasing. And it's from 1948. And again, he's with his family in the cemetery, and all the ghosts wake up at midnight, and he's reading that book again about how to make friends. And they all get up, and this part kind of, I didn't put it together when I was little because I didn't have the reference for it, but all the ghosts go up into the sky and they form this attack pattern like a jet stream.
Oh.
And they start bombing into people's houses. Like it sounds, they're going boom, boom, like
yeah,
and they're screaming. And I was like, that's the thing, Blitzkrieg.
Yeah.
Why would they do that when in 1948 the Blitzkrieg was still fresh and it was still there? People, why would you do that? So insensitive.
Yeah.
So I got kind of worked up about the Blitzkrieg reference and was like, that's really dark. So he's like, oh, screw this, I'm gonna go find friends or whatever. So he goes back out into the world again, and they all reject him. And so he's sitting on this log and he's crying, and he's like, nobody will be my friend, blah blah blah. And this little like fox kit comes out from the bushes and sees him crying and like feels really bad for him and starts rubbing up against him.
Aww.
And Casper like holds him and he's like, you're not afraid of me? And the little fox kit licks him, and he's like, oh my god. So they're friends now. They're like playing tag and hide and seek and catch and stuff. They're having a really great time. And at one point when Casper is counting and the little fox kid is hiding, these two massive bloodhounds come over a hill, and it's part of a fox hunting party, and the dogs pick up his scent, and Ferdy takes off and he's running away from the dogs, but Casper's still counting. He doesn't know. And then the hunter comes over the thing and the horse, and he starts shooting at the fox. And this is the scene that this went on for too long. This is too distressing. Ferdy would try to like cross a river. He almost fell over a waterfall. He was trying to like lose the dogs, and finally Casper catches on what's happening, and he goes to run in front of Ferdy, and he was like, stop, don't shoot my friend. I apologize if audio quality drastically is different in the rest of this podcast, but we had to switch servers. So
Yeah.
whoops. So the hunter is shooting and Casper is trying to protect Ferdy, and all the shots are going through him and everything. But but then the dogs and the horse and the hunter come over the crest and they see Casper and they're like, oh no, a ghost. So they go back wherever they came from. And Casper's super happy. He's like, oh my God, I protected my friend. I like saved Ferdy. And he turns around, but Ferdy isn't there. And he finds him. And it's like one of those kid cartoons thing where they really don't confront death. And it's just the tail and Ferdy is like seen under a bush. And I was like, oh no. But then they completely were like, we're showing you everything. And Casper picks up Ferdy's dead body and it's like limp and hanging everywhere. And he's just holding on to it and crying. And he's like, Ferdy, you're dead. And I couldn't save you. And you were my only friend. And he's like really sad. He's hiccuping and crying and stuff. And he buries him and he's crying. And he's like, Ferdy was my only friend. How could I lose him? Da-da-da. And then Ferdy's ghost comes out, heard him crying and came out to console him. And now they're happily together, but like they're both dead. It was so dark. It was so dark.
So dark. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I think I remember that cartoon. The minute you said that Ferdy came out of the grave, I'm like, yes, because I didn't remember anything up until then. I just remembered that happy ending. Like, and why did I only remember the little happiness at the end?
Because all of it is so dark. I was telling it to Nadine, the story again, and Nadine was like gonna cry. And I was like, yeah, it's dark for a kid's cartoon.
It's so dark.
I also want to have some honorable mentions before I get into Treehouse of Horror. So some honorable mentions would be some of the characters, like the slime gunk thing from Fern Gully. Nadine didn't remember any of these either, so we were talking about them. And then I don't know if you ever saw this movie, but it's called Rock-a-Doodle.
No. Wait, let me look it up because I might have seen it. Because when you said the other novel tunes, I remember those.
Right.
I remember Rock-a-Doodle because I thought that was, what's his face?
Elvis?
No, there was another cartoon that the main character looked like.
Really?
And I can't remember it now. The little boy. Oh, God. Well, it's going to escape me.
Because we lived in Memphis when I watched it. I always was like, oh, Rock-a-Doodle's Elvis. But the owls, do you remember the owls in the very beginning of this movie?
Probably for a good reason too.
Yes. So the reason why Rock-a-Doodle is missing or has been kidnapped is because he brings the sun and the light to the world. So the owls want it to be eternal darkness. Girl, if you look up owl Rock-a-Doodle, Nadine did, and she was like, oh yeah, I remember those.
Oh God. Oh yes, I remember those suckers. Oh man.
Yep. And then the other honorable mention would be the bad guy from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, because he was so crazy.
And you don't realize he's a cartoon too until the steamroller starts to squish him. Oh God.
So good. Oh man.
That was real dark. One of my favorite movies. And then, of course, Hocus Pocus, not the animated Addams Family. I watched the Addams Family and Addams Family Values.
Yeah.
And then like Beetlejuice and the cartoon Beetlejuice, Ghostbusters, Real Ghostbusters TV show. Got to see all those because I think they were probably on Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
But those are all my honorable mentions because some of those characters, they weren't from a horror movie, but they were definitely characters that gave me the heebie-jeebies growing up.
Ooh, those owls from Rock-a-Doodle. Oh, I gotta watch it again. Oof.
Right?
Like just so good. Oh my gosh. Five-O Goes West. Oh my gosh, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, I would also say what was he? Maybe he was a bulldog, but from All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Yes, the bulldog.
He was kind of scary, especially since he murdered other dogs.
I know.
What the hell?
He gave me a very unhealthy fear of dogs.
I mean, that's fair though, because I don't think I understood that he had put a hit out on Charlie until much older. And I was like, bro, what? He put a hit out on Charlie and he got murdered? It messed me up real bad. So yeah, so those are my honorable mentions. So now for Treehouse of Horror. I have to say though, Treehouse of Horror, 90% of it wasn't scary in the same way that some of these other things were. I really enjoyed it because of the literary allusions or like the allusions to movies that I wasn't allowed to watch yet, but I got to see the campy, cartoony or retelling of it in 6 or 7 minutes.
Okay.
My two favorite seasons of Treehouse of Horror are season 5 and season 6. So 1993 and 1994. Treehouse of Horror 4 has where Homer sells his soul for a donut and the devil is his neighbor Flanders, which I always thought was hilarious because Flanders is his goody two-shoe Bible thumping neighbor. He's like, I'd sell my soul for a donut, and Flanders shows up and he's like, Flanders? And he goes, yeah, it's always the one you least suspect.
I love it.
And then the next short is a retake on the gremlin on the side of the airplane. And Bart sees a gremlin messing with the school bus and like trying to wreck the school bus, but nobody believes him.
Oh.
And it's like one of those, he like goes crazy and he saves everybody, but he gets admitted because everybody thinks he's crazy. And then the other one, Mr. Burns is Dracula. So he has the Simpsons over as a employee dinner night or something, but he just tries killing them all and sucking all their blood. That was a funny one, especially there's this one where because Lisa's like, Dad, you have to kill him, you have to put a stake in his heart. So Homer's like, and he like starts stabbing him, and she's like, Dad, that's his crotch. And he's like, oh wait, where'd you say the heart? And so he like puts it up by the heart.
Oh my god.
It's just like so stupid but so funny. And then the next season, which is technically season 6 but Treehouse of Horror 5, they redid The Shining. Really good. And I think this is when all of the Treehouse of Horror starts a gag where Willie the groundskeeper is so close to saving the Simpson family, and then he gets axed in the back and he dies before he can save everybody. And I think that's where the runner started. It also is where one of the lines where Homer, he's like, no beer, no TV, make Homer something, something. And Marge goes, go crazy? He goes, don't mind if I do. He like starts chasing everybody through the house and swinging the axe and everything. And then there's the other one, which is the next short. It's Time and Punishment, which is time travel.
Mm-hmm.
So Homer gets his hand stuck in a toaster and he wrecks at the toaster getting his hand out. And he's like, I can fix it. So he fixes it, but he accidentally turns it into a time machine, and it will only send him back to the Jurassic period or the Cretaceous period. And he's like, oh no, don't touch anything. He's like, remember what your father told you on your wedding night. And his dad is like, if you ever go back in time, don't touch anything and put up. So weird. So he's like tiptoeing around the Cretaceous, like waiting until the toast pops up because that's when it sends him back to the future. As he's like doing that, he trips over a log and sits and flattens out the first fish that was going to crawl out of the primordial goo. And he comes back and like everything is ruined. So he keeps going back to the past trying to like fix everything. And by the end, he's like, I'm gonna kill everything. He sneezes on a T-Rex and like bashes everything. It like just wrecks the Cretaceous period because he's so mad. I thought that was really funny. And then the last one on that short is Nightmare Cafeteria, which is basically just Soylent Green. The school has to cut funding. Like they've already cut art and music, and now they aren't allowed to have meat anymore in the budget for the cafeteria. But detention is overcrowded. They start putting the kids in the kitchen, and one of the kids falls into the meat grinder. And they're like, oh no, what do we do? And they're like, well, he's already in there. Like, serve him. And so they start killing the kids on purpose. Where Willie comes to save them, and he's like, don't worry, kids, I gotcha. And then he falls into the meat grinder too. So those are my 2 favorite seasons. There's lots of other really good ones. They do a lot of Twilight episode spoofs. An honorable mention for The Simpsons that was not an actual Treehouse of Horror is when they have an X-Files episode and they think an alien has come to town. And it's legitimately kind of scary. Like I was like, oh shit, that's kind of scary. Mm-hmm. Okay, turns out it's Mr. Burns.
Oh, of course.
So that was all my Treehouse of Horror and my Casper. And then, oh shit, I just realized I've been talking for a long ass time.
No,
okay.
I think we're good.
Okay, I just want to talk a little bit about Pinocchio and the Emperor of Night. It was directed by Hal Sutherland and was animated in 1987. Well, I was looking it up, girl. It grossed in the box office over $3 million.
What?
Yeah, and I was like, this movie? Are you sure?
That's because we didn't have anything else to do. So we went to the movies.
Because I was convinced it was a straight to VHS type movie.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it was straight to VHS.
No, it was on the box office. It starts out really dark. It sets up the carnival and has very dark Ray Bradbury, Something Wicked This Way Comes vibes, where this weird ominous ship comes out of the fog and opens up its dock, and this weird snaking thing comes out of it, and these carriages, and they all put themselves up, and the snaky thing is the tent, and it unravels and puts itself up, and it's really kind of scary. It's supposed to take place 1 year after Pinocchio becomes a real boy, and then he makes terrible decisions. Of course, he gets tricked into the carnival. Well, he makes his way to the carnival. The carnival is the Emperor of Night, and he gets captured by the guy who originally captured him in the first Pinocchio story. Oh. The same guy. I forgot about this part because Pinocchio is at the carnival and he's watching the puppet show, and he's like, oh, it's so sad for the puppets. They should be free like me. And the puppeteer is like, you look really familiar. You look like this one puppet I knew called Pistachio. And I was like, oh, good. He forgot what his name was. And Pinocchio, this dumb mother goes, no, my name was Pinocchio and I got away. I'm a real boy now. And I was like, bro, why would you do that? Now he knows he can kidnap you.
Exactly. Jesus, friend.
And he does. He kidnaps him immediately and turns him back into a puppet. So blah, blah, blah. And then he is on this little adventure. He messed up and screwed over his Geppetto somehow. And he's like going to go get the thing back. And he willingly goes into the realm of the night. And he's trying to negotiate with the Emperor of the Night. He's like, all right, I need back my dad's jewelry box that he made. And the Emperor of the Night's like, all right, cool. We'll go that way and I'll help you get it. He's like, or do you hear that party over there? And Pinocchio was like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, it's a party every day. And there's no rules. Dreams come true. And he's like, can I just go take a peek? And the Emperor's like, yeah, of course. And he like goes, gets served beer and he gets drunk almost immediately. He's high. There's gambling. And these are like 7, 8-year-old children.
Yeah.
They're all fucked up. And kids keep feeding him beer over and over. And he's like, should we be drinking this? And they're like, who cares?
My God.
And then he saves the day, blah, blah. But it's really, really dark. There's lots of dark elements. In fact, I forgot some of more lighthearted scenes because of how dark some of it was.
I mean, the cover of it is very, very dark too.
Yeah. And there was one other thing. I was rewatching it because I remember when I watched it when I was little, one of the ways that the Emperor of Night entices him is that he's like, you want to be a star, right? You want to be on the stage and perform. And Pinocchio was like, well, I am really good at dancing, because when he was a puppet, he danced. And I remember watching it when I was little and being like, who the fuck wants to be a star? That sounds terrible. Why would you want to be famous? And then I was like, this is a perfect story for kids these days, where they can be a YouTube star, a TikTok star, they can be a blue check.
Yeah. Ooh, like you really gave me the creeps with that one because it's so relevant today.
It is. It's way more relevant than it was back then.
Ooh, I have to watch it because I feel like just looking at the illustrations of it on just like a basic Google search, like I feel like I might have watched it, but I don't know. I'm definitely gonna watch it now. Even though Pinocchio, like that's one Disney that really freaks me out, and I purposely did not talk any Disney stuff because I did not want to go to Pinocchio.
I mean, that's fair. That's definitely got one of the darkest scenes with all the boys and the kids getting turned into donkeys.
And like Fantasia creeped me out, but I watched Fantasia again and I was like, oh, this wasn't that scary.
Interesting. We had a really small TV set, and so I was able to reach the fast forward button on the VCR. So I think I just fast forwarded through those parts that I didn't like, especially on days when my mom left me home by myself at 4 years old because she had to, and I would just put on VHS all day.
Yep, I wasn't that smart to fast forward. I don't know.
And she had to teach me because I once accidentally recorded over one of my VHS. I was so mad.
Oh no.
But I'm ready to talk Looney Tunes now.
Okay, well, before we get into Looney Tunes, just because I have some honorable mentions as well, because I didn't want to talk Disney, but these are my honorable mentions. Like my mom used to record stuff. She would get VHSs from Albertsons. She would record them for us so we could watch them. So there was one VHS tape that we watched all the time. And we now watch the same lineup of cartoons with our kids, me and my sisters. And the first one is Lonesome Ghosts. That was in 1937. And it's Mickey and the gang and they're ghost hunters. And it looks like the same three uncles from Casper. And so they fight them, and it's just hilarity ensues, but it was creepy to me as a kid. The second one is Trick or Treat. It premiered in 1952, and it is Donald Duck and his nephews. The nephews are trick or treating, and Donald is an ass. He takes it literal, right? Like trick or treat. Like, so they encounter a real witch who, coincidentally enough, her name is Witch Hazel, and she helps them best Uncle Donald. And then the third one was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. The VHS always ended with that.
Oh, yeah.
That one premiered in 1949, and that one I would like to do a Disney horror. So that's why I didn't want to mention these too much, because that one it can't be October and I not watch that. And that also introduced me to my love of Bing Crosby too, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, because he narrates it. And then the last honorable mention is a book. It's Bunnicula by James Howe, and it was published in 1979. And I just love that book. My daughter loves it. It was her first chapter book. So,
that was Nadine's first chapter book that she chose for herself.
Oh my God. It's just such a good chapter book. Like, I love the fact that the bunny sucks the juices out of the vegetables. Like, it's just so cute. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions, just because I didn't want to talk about them, because if I talked Disney, I'd have to talk Pinocchio, and I'm not ready for that. And now I guess we talk Looney Tunes, which we've spent like maybe 45 minutes. So we're going to start off with, we're doing this in chronological order. We're starting off with my favorite one, Hair Raising Hair, which was released in 1946. And we open up to Bugs singing, and he's in his PJs, got his little candle out. He's coming out of his little rabbit hole, and he's asking the audience, have you ever had the feeling you're being watched? Which, duh, bro, we're watching you. But it zooms out, and in the zoom, you see there's this mad scientist with red gloves watching him and talking. And the mad scientist is made to look like the actor Peter Lorre, who was in a Hitchcock film. His face is so recognizable because they use his face a lot in Looney Tunes. And so the mad scientist has decided he needs to lure Bugs Bunny to his lair. And so he uses a robot bunny. And the robot bunny is very, very cute, nice curves, red lipstick, red dress. And so she passes by little Bugs, and he follows her because he's a horn dog. And as he gets to the mad scientist's place, he starts kissing the robot, and the robot breaks. And he's like, well, okay, I gotta go. And the mad scientist is like, no. I have someone else for you. And being the horn dog that he is, Bugs Bunny is like, okay, I want to meet this new friend. And they go up to the door that's labeled Monster. And the monster is like trying to break out. And Bugs like, yeah, I gotta go. Packing his bags. And my favorite character comes out, Gossamer. He's so cute. So Gossamer comes out, and they're doing their cat and mouse chase scene, which is a lot of Bugs Bunny stuff. A couple of the things that I really liked was that when I was looking up Gossamer, I read that Chuck Jones named Gossamer, which is a thin spider film, but he gave Gossamer his name because he's a big hairy monster, because of course. And I also like that they played with the fact that they knew they were in a cartoon, which I always enjoyed that, because at one point through the chase scene, Bugs is like, is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house?
Yeah, that's right.
So when the audience stands up, I'm a doctor.
And then he just goes, what's up, Duck?
Yeah, he does a little kitschy catchphrase. I mean, Bugs is so freaking stupid. Like, he goes up the stairs, he runs back down, he tells the monster, don't go up there, it's dark.
Jennifer, I have to tell you, because we only had a certain amount of VHS growing up, there were certain phrases that we repeated each other to make each other laugh all the time. And one of them was to frantically run up together and go, don't go up there, it's dark. And then, like, run away.
That is so funny, because when my daughter watched that episode, that was what she took from it. She's like, don't go up there, it's dark. And I'm like, okay.
That's what me and Nay did too. And it clicked. It reminded me when I watched this episode. I was like, oh my God, I remember me and Nay running up to each other at every opportunity and going, don't go up there, it's dark.
See, and for me, the best part is when Bugs is, because he does all these tactics to get Gossamer off his toes. And at one point he's like, oh my gosh, your nails. And he starts doing his And so towards the end of it, at one point Gossamer gets him, and he's like, don't you ever get the feeling like you're being watched? And so they both look out towards the TV, and Bugs is really playing it up like, look out and look at that. Look who's out there. Thousands of them just watching you. And so Gossamer's like, people, and he runs away. There were so many callbacks of old school comedy that I was already on my 6th page when I was writing this one, so I didn't write a lot of this stuff. But there's, I think it's like Groucho Marx, the doctor in the house is a reference to Groucho Marx. I can't remember the one with the cigar when he's like, I redispose of that monster. I can't remember which one that was because I didn't write it down. Just, oh gosh, I just love Gossamer though. He's so cute and fluffy. So the one from 1948 I have is the first Porky and Sylvester cartoon, Scaredy Cat.
Wait, first, can I point out that I think the reason why I didn't like the Porky Sylvester team up was because with Porky, Sylvester was a coward, but with Tweety, Sylvester was maybe not clever, but he was more like Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah. A couple of them that I watched with Sylvester, they always called him a coward. And I was like, poor Sylvester.
Yeah. I think for a long time growing up, I didn't realize that it was the same cat.
Yeah.
Because they didn't act the same.
I'm with you. I never thought that Sylvester with anyone else other than Tweety was the same cat because it just seemed clearly two different cats. So the Porky and Sylvester. So one of them is Scaredy Cat, which was 1948. And the second one that I wrote down was Claws for Alarm, which was in 1954. Now, the only reason why I wrote these two is because they're sort of like the same setup in terms of plot, where they go somewhere, Sylvester is very afraid, and Porky is not. And Porky is ignoring all of Sylvester's concerns. I was very upset with that.
Oblivious.
Yeah, he's so oblivious. At one point, he's like, oh, I love the charm of this place. And I'm like, oh, stop.
Dude, when they come into that abandoned town and he was like, I love how people go to bed so early in these little towns. And I was
Yeah.
like, bro, that's not
Yeah.
good.
It's not good. Yeah. And Sylvester spends most of the cartoon saving friggin' Porky's life, and Porky's just like yelling at Sylvester for things that he thinks are nefarious. But this is why I wrote down this one for a scaredy cat, because I have a thought. I think this is where my distrust in people came in and creepy places, because Sylvester was very clearly freaked out by the house that they were staying in and the murderous mice, which is kind of funny that the mice were the scary ones, for whatever. But Porky loved the charm of the house, and I was like, freaking listen, bro, like red flags. And I remember feeling that way as a kid. Why is this dumb pig not listening? And so I think that's where my whole, like, I don't trust, when anyone says they love the charm of a house, I'm like, no, I don't trust that. So I think this is where that stemmed from. And so for the second cartoon, because I was like, I just have to watch the second one just to see if it's the same thing. They arrive at this place called the Dry Gulch Hotel. I had to look that up. And a dry gulch means to kill from an ambush.
What?
Yeah, and that's a Western reference. And I was like, oh, God. And the reason why I put this one down is because at the very end, Sylvester beats on Porky and he's like, we're getting the hell out of here. And as they're leaving in the dash, you see the like little eyes peeking out, blinking. And this was the first time I witnessed the not quite dead trope, because the monster was still there and was going with them. And I was like, oh, that's a whole nother level of horror. And so that's why I put those two down. They were kind of quintessential into like tropes and stuff for me. And I think the next one is 1954's.
Okay, cool. So that's Bewitched Bunny on mine. That's the only 1954 I have. And okay, growing up, this episode, I liked it, but I also hated it because it was very frustrating to watch as a child. The very, very beginning, when Bugs is like reading Hansel and Gretel to himself, and then he hears Witch Hazel enticing the kids in, and he walks away going, why that dirty old, and I was like, yes, exactly. Like frustrating, but also the way that the kids like hopped into it, like all jovial and without any concern or wariness. I remember looking at them as a child thinking, you deserve to die. This is so stupid. Like, why would you do this? And I was like, y'all kind of dumb. And then Bugs shows up as a truant officer, and I was like, wow, I feel like that was such a specific thing, you know?
Yeah.
And then one thing I really enjoyed, I think I found it confusing when I was little, but like not in a bad way, but more like, that's a thing. When Prince Charming comes in and kisses Bugs back to life.
Yeah.
And now I was like, look at that, like trying to overcome like hetero gender expectations. And I was like, nice. And I was like, but also I kind of hate that a prince can just go around kissing people and like wake them up as if he's the epitome, be all end all of something. And I was like, I don't know how to feel.
I went totally opposite. I was like, oh, there's a Snow White reference because they mentioned Snow White. And then in the other broomstick bunny that has Witch Hazel in it, she's obsessed with the magic mirror. I was like, I wonder if Snow White was popular around then.
Oh, you might be right.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, they're really capping on the Snow White here.
See, and I'm sitting here, even as a child, trying to figure out all the queer subtext.
Yeah, but also the fact that he could just come in like nothing and kiss. Yeah, go away, friend.
My last thing to say about this episode, and is at the very, very end, when Witch Hazel gets accidentally turned into basically pre-Lola Bunny.
I wrote this down too.
That Bugs like wraps around her and everything, and he's like, all right, cool. And then he looks at the screen and he goes, yeah, I know, but aren't they all witches inside? And I was like, excuse me, what?
I wrote the same. I was like, you rude mother. Oh my gosh, you rude ass bunny. Like, I would never give you a carrot. I was really hot watching that. I was so upset.
It's not the only time he does that.
No, it's not.
There's a few times where he made some sexist comments, and I was like, so sidetrack, because like I said, I'm always trying to find the queer undertones and things. I was like, okay, so Prince Charming kissed him awake, and then he like runs off with whatever girl is available. I was like, man, back in the 50s though, that's kind of how the queer community got around, you know, like they snuck it on the side because that was what they liked, but in order to be safe and stay alive, they still married women. They didn't actually love women, they just were with women because they needed to survive, but they were getting that Prince Charming on the side. And I was like, is the writer gay?
I wonder. I mean, you never know. So, okay, one of the things that I love about Looney Tunes, but I also hate about Looney Tunes is their like accuracy for stuff. And I noticed right away that the two German kids were blonde with blue eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then I know like I'm not supposed to like these kids. And then when they hurled that insult at Wood Hazel, your mother rides a vacuum cleaner, I was like,
That made me laugh so hard.
I know.
And I don't know why.
Me either, because I was like, well, wouldn't that be a step up from a broom? I was so confused. I was like, I don't like these kids.
Up until that point where they're feeding each other in the pot, I was like, but the original story is so much more uplifting because it's Gretel that's like the heroine of the story.
Yeah.
Like, you know, women power, blah, blah. She like outsmarts the witch. And I was like, but these dumbass kids. And then they walk up to her and they go, your mother rides a vacuum. Why is that funny?
I mean, I was confused. I was just like, huh, okay, kids. Like, whatever. So the next one I have written down is Hyde and Hare from 1955. And this is a take on Jekyll and Hyde, which was my first introduction into anything Jekyll and Hyde. And I was just like, I remember watching this cartoon many times thinking like, what in the F? Because I was like, is this a real thing? I had a lot of problems with perception when I was a child. Let me just go ahead and say that. So we open up on Bugs Bunny again. He sees that these people are feeding the birds breadcrumbs and popcorn and stuff. And he's like, oh, the guy should be here soon with my carrots. He does it every day. And Dr. Jekyll comes and he does his little, what's up, Doc? And gets his carrots. And then he like convinces Jekyll like, oh, like you should just adopt me. That way you just give me carrots from bread. And Jekyll's like, yeah, sure. Come on. As if that's not crazy enough. But anyways, so as they get in there, Bug starts to play Chopin and the doctor goes into his little area. He's looking for a carrot, but as he passes to get to the kitchen, his lab is there and he sees his potion. He's like, I shouldn't drink it. But he drinks it and he turns into Hyde. And they go back and forth with the Jekyll and Hyde thing. But I was so confused because he drank the potion once and he kept turning back into Hyde. And I was like, well, did he not drink the potion beforehand? Is this his first time drinking this? He seems like he really likes this. This is like a bottle of wine to him. Why is this man? I was so confused and I was just like, I don't understand. And like I told you, I had a real weird perception problem back in the days. I was just like, I need to make sure like I don't get anywhere near something bubbly like that because I don't want to drink it and turn into a monster. I was very weird. I was a very weird child, okay?
And it's like a really specific thing to take away from that.
Yes. And I was like, just don't drink anything crazy on anyone's kitchen counter like that, especially if it's bubbling. We would go to like family parties and they'd have sparkling cider. And I'm like, oh God, I can't drink that stuff. Like, I know I can't drink that stuff. I was just a weird kid. I don't know.
I mean, like in your defense, though, that was probably a really safe thing to have in the back of your mind.
Because it was a long time before I drank champagne because I kept thinking about Hyde and Jekyll and I was like, This is a weird kid thing that I just took with me.
Huh.
I don't know why. I think the next thing I have is 56, which is Broomstick Bunny.
That's my next one too. I really liked Broomstick Bunny for lots of reasons. I am such a weird child. Oh my God. So I'm looking at my notes and the things that I analyzed out of Broomstick Bunny, I analyzed as a child. There were 3 major takeaways I got as a kid. The first one I noticed was that Witch Hazel's house is kind of set up like MC Escher, where like all the landings and the stairwells and the doorways kind of like go in different areas. And that was the first time I ever saw that. I was really into it.
Oh, I always liked her house. And I remember looking at it this time and I was like, I really like the drawing of her house.
Mm-hmm. It's very MC Escher. I was really into it. The other thing was that I really liked Bugs's witch costume. I don't know why.
He did a good job. Like I was like, that's a good costume, friend.
And I didn't think he looked like a witch though. I thought he looked more like a goblin, but I like really was into it. And then I really hyper fixated on, this probably means that I have body image issues or body dysphoria like really young already, but I hyper fixated on Witch Hazel appreciating and enjoying the fact that she was ugly. You know, like she put that as her most prized aspect because she kept asking the mirror, like you mentioned earlier. The mirror was kind of racist though, let's just point that out.
I mean, yes.
Oh, warning, one of the characters in Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night is super racist. So like isn't that good? So she like prized being ugly above all else.
Mhm.
And when she was turned beautiful and her voice even changed and everything, that more than anything stuck with me to this day throughout my entire life, where this idea that prizing a certain, I guess, beauty standard over another, it really filled me with insecurity about my own body and my own image, but also kind of gave me a safe space to appreciate the fact that I didn't meet conventional beauty standards. It was weird. I struggled with that for a long time. Still do, but
Yeah. She
um
empowered me because, like you, I was very aware of the fact that I was very different. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. You're saying I could be this witch and still be
mm,
cool? Because, like, I thought she was hella cool. And I loved her little laugh and her little
oh my
hee hee
god.
hee. Like, she was so cute. Her little jokes that she made laugh to herself. I was like, oh my God, she is me. I make those
Okay.
stupid jokes.
I thought she was insane because I couldn't figure out why she kept laughing at Mother. I
I
was
don't
like, what is so funny about saying that she's got maternal instincts? And then she would laugh, and I was like, are you okay?
It's because she doesn't have maternal instincts because she wants to eat the rabbit.
I mean, yeah, I get that now, but like when I was little, I was like, I don't understand why you're laughing. To me, it just seemed like she was laughing randomly, like there was no
Yeah.
rhyme or reason.
But when I was watching this as an adult, I was like, okay, so they use the same voice actor from the first one because I watched these right behind each other. And then I was like, wait a minute, I know that voice. And so in my head, I was replaying where I knew it from. The same voice actor that played Witch Hazel also played Witch Hazel in the Disney Trick or Treat episode. And then I was looking up that voice actor and to see that the caricature at the end, the beautiful person, is the actual caricature of the voice actor.
Oh,
And her name is June Foray, and I was like, well, that's really cute that they used her actual, like, likeness to make the beautiful witch.
that's interesting.
Yeah, right. I was like, they really went to some lengths. One thing that I
Yeah.
couldn't figure out though was anytime she zoomed away, there was like a scattering of
Hairpins.
hairpins, and I was like, what does that mean? And again, like I told you, my perception was really weird, and so I was like, oh man, I'm gonna lose a lot of hairpins if I run really fast, like.
Wait, did you wear hairpins though?
Yes, because
Okay,
like, I always had bangs, so I would like clip them to the back. I have a bunch of baby hairs that won't grow out, and I didn't know about like laying edges back then. So like I would just pin them back, and I'm like, I just can't run because I'm gonna lose them like Witch Hazel. So like I just didn't run.
That's hilarious. Because in one of the other episodes, Witch's Tangled Hair, the Macbeth one, when she like runs off screen, she doesn't leave behind the hairpins that time. It's like fleas or something or lice.
Oh, weird.
It was weird. There were two more things that I discovered in this episode, but only as an adult.
Mm.
So one of them was that the witches were unionized. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like the Factory Witches of Lowell by C.S. Mallory? I was really excited.
That was really funny. When she was like, I've never seen this one from the last union meeting.
I think I got more excited about the fact that the witches were unionized than anything else.
That was really, really fun.
The other thing, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit, but remember, I don't think I've seen these for at least 20 years, maybe more. But when she gets the axe to chase after bugs and she's sharpening it and she runs her thumb across it and she goes, it's sharp enough to split a hair. And then she looks at the screen and she laughs and she goes, split a hair. And I was like, oh God, I am today years old when I got that joke.
Same, because I watch everything with subtitles now. And so when the subtitle came out, I was like, oh.
I felt real dumb.
Yeah.
I was also a little taken aback that at the very, very end of the episode, he calls the air raid.
Yes.
I was like, was that a thing in the 50s during the Cold War that we just had the local air raid number publicly memorized?
I don't know. It makes you wonder, like, how much of these cartoons triggered adults at the time?
Right. Because we've got the Blitzkrieg from right after World War II. We got the air raids during the Cold War. I mean, I feel like these days they wouldn't be making children's cartoons taking a school shooting this lightly, you know?
No, they don't. I watch cartoons with my kid, and before the episode, it tells you're gonna learn critical thinking skills, you're gonna learn culture, like da 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 da. And it's like not on the same level of the cartoons I watch as a kid. So, okay. So the next one I have is 1960 Hide and Go Tweet, which is another Jekyll and Hyde. The reason I wrote this one down is because it's between Sylvester and Tweety takes the potion. And again, this is my perception going because Sylvester at one point drinks a bottle of invisible fluid and he disappears. And I was like, I need that stuff. Like, like they did it on Tom and Jerry too, and I was like, man, I need that stuff. Like, why can I have that? Like, and I kept looking for it. I thought it was in the medicine cabinet of all things, and I could never find it. I'm just a very weird person, okay?
Oh, I gotta say, Hide and Go Tweet, Monster Tweety actually scared me.
Yes, Monster Tweety was
not
so
okay.
scary. I also wrote that Tweety said he wanted to hide, and he found the Hyde formula bottle, and I was like, I saw what you did there.
Damn it, I didn't get that. Ugh. I think I was fixated on the fact that Tweety as a monster scared me so much as a kid.
Oh, yes.
That scene when Sylvester first sees him and he literally falls to pieces, I was like, same.
Yeah. Yeah, because that bird was scary.
Yes.
I watched the one with Bugs more than I watched the one with Sylvester and Tweety, and I think it was because Tweety was so freaking scary as Hyde. Ugh. But the only reason why I added this was because it was only a dream trope and the rosy color because he wakes up, right? And I was like, that's so before horror in 70s and 80s that used that same trope. And I was like, you guys are so good, Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted some invisible potion. I didn't get it.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you did not go through your parents' medicine cabinet drinking everything because Nadine did that. She drank calamine lotion.
Oh no.
Yeah, my mom, that was probably the first time I ever saw my mom like truly panic.
Oh my gosh. We had that green poison control sticker on the fridge. And I remember my mom was like, I don't ever want to call this person. And so I would always look at that sticker and be like, I don't ever want her to call that number either. It had like a green ugly face. And I was like, no, she can never call that number. And I was always afraid of that number being called, which I don't know why.
I had to be the one to call poison control when Nadine drank calamine lotion. My mom had her like upside down. Oh, Nadine was young too. She was like 2 years old. She had her by her legs and had fed her like, forget what it's called, but it was like this really bitter stuff that they used back in the 40s and 50s to make you throw up. And she had given Nadine like a teaspoon of that and Nadine was puking up her guts and she was just like had her dangling over the tub.
Oh man.
It was really scary. They didn't even come out, by the way, Jennifer. Like nobody came to the house.
What?
They were just like, do you think that she's puked everything up? My mom was like, yeah. And they were like, well, just keep an eye on her. And if she seems to have a reaction, go to the emergency room.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my mom was really upset.
I can't believe you went through all the trouble of calling the scary number and no one came out.
Yeah, no, they walked me through telling what my mom, that was the other thing. Like, I'm like speaking to my mom because my mom's like holding a dangling toddler upside down over a bathtub while she pukes her guts out.
Oh my God, that's so scary. I'm glad I did not drink any of this stuff. I just looked for the label and I was like, it has to match the label that I saw on the TV.
That is so scary.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I also thought animals were going to be like a bigger problem for me too, but they were not. It's just my perception was just so weird as a child. I don't know.
Oh man. I only have one more on my list.
Okay. I think it would probably be 1963 Transylvania 65000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This one, I didn't think I liked it as much as I wound up liking after. I think maybe I had to age, to really appreciate all the like subtle things about it.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the two-headed vulture. They cracked me up. They reminded me of the two vultures from Jungle Book.
Yes, me too. I was like, where do I know them from? And yes.
The doorbell was perfect. I need my doorbell to be like that. It took me until the second time seeing them, but the red drapes everywhere looked like blood coming down the walls.
Okay, I didn't get that until I did a wiki search because I did Wikipedia for everything, and they were like, it's blood everywhere. I was like, oh, I did not know that. I was just like, he just likes red.
I took the second one because the first scene I was like, oh, they're deteriorated, like there's cobwebs everywhere. Of course they're like strung about. But then the second scene I was like, oh no, it looks like blood coming down the walls. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I also really like that the Count is just floating everywhere when they're going up the stairs. I would be like, Bugs, if you just turned around for like a second, his feet are not on the ground.
Right. Bugs. Oh God, sometimes he's so stupid.
So the one part that actually did scare me as a child, and I didn't remember this until I saw it, but when they're in the room and Dracula's like, oh, don't worry about whatever, like spend the night and then you'll be able to use a telephone. He goes to cup Bugs's head, but instead of cupping it, he like scoops the entirety of Bugs's head and his fingers wrap all the way entirely around his head. And I remember seeing that as a kid and being like, he could pop his head off just this.
Yes.
And rewatching it, I was like, I still don't like the idea of someone like going to cup your head, just completely engrossing it. And I was like, what? No, thank you.
That is so gross. That is so disgusting. Like I'm literally putting my hand on my head and like, thank God, like it doesn't go around, but like,
because like Bugs's ears too. I didn't notice it, but they go from like being up and alert to like fully down and scared when he cups his head, and I was like, ugh, I don't like it. And then of course the only part that I remembered enjoying as a child was when he gets stuck under the stone and he's like, abracadabra, hocus pocus, abracadabra, hocus pocus.
That's my favorite part. I did write down, like, at one point, Bugs like, I can't go to sleep. Like, I can't sleep in a strange bed, which I can relate. And so he's like, I'll read a book. And so I looked at, they go through the bookshelf. And so I wrote a couple titles down because I was like, that's really funny. The Health and Care of Fangs, Blood Type,
that one.
The Bone Guide, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Vampire. They really took their time with that. I love that. Yeah. That's some Pixar nonsense there.
Right.
And just like you, I wrote down, I loved the two-headed vulture. My favorite part was, of course, when Bugs was experimenting with hocus pocus and abracadabra and abracapocus and hocus dabra. Like, that was so funny. And then turning into a literal baseball bat and beating the other bat over the head. I really enjoyed that one more as an adult, because the only part as a child that I remember is the back and forth, but it was really, really funny as an adult. Like, that's top 10 there.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I think that's one of the ones that you have to get the references, and like you just have to have a little bit more cultural zeitgeist to be able to understand.
Yeah.
Because some of these definitely hit different now that I've got more understanding of the larger literary existence.
Yeah, because I remember as a kid, because he gets lost in like Pittsburgh, Transylvania or something like that, some nonsense, and I was like, I can never go to Pennsylvania. And like, I just remember thinking, like, I can't go to Pennsylvania, until I was a teen and someone told me that Hershey's was in Pennsylvania. I was like, oh yeah, forget the fear, I'm going. As an adult watching it, it's just like, dude, Jennifer, what were you thinking?
Did you notice that all of those Looney Tunes episodes are really just from the Golden Age?
Yeah.
Which I find that interesting because I only stuck to the ones that I saw before I was 10 years old, but all of them came out long before I was born.
I know. I only have one that was actually like created in the 80s. And the only reason why I put it down was because it really freaked me out. And I mean, for obvious reasons, it freaked me out. But yeah, the rest of them were way clear before I was born. And clearly I was too young to watch them because I did not understand a lot of references. And my perception was telling me different things.
I think I'm really nervous about the like bottle thing now, because you were so close to making the same mistake as Nadine, and it makes me wonder like how many kids out there, because growing up I always wondered, why do they put the same symbol of poison, like the skull and crossbones, on all those bottles? And now I'm like, that's because there were kids like you and Nadine out there who were like looking for the bottle.
Yes, legit looking for it. Oh gosh, I was such a weird kid. I feel so bad for my mom and my dad sometimes. I'm just so weird.
I'm stressed out like retroactively for your parents.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I was the oldest of 3 girls, and my 2 sisters, they shared a room. So by nature, they were closer, and which I liked because like I've always been an introvert, a loner, just chill with myself. And I didn't share these things with them, so they couldn't like run and tell mom. I'm like just looking on my own, like, y'all busy yourselves with Bobby's World. Let me go look through the medicine cabinet and see if I can find something. Just such a weird kid. But luckily, none of that existed, so I could not try it because, ugh.
Well, and luckily you were smart enough. The label needed to match exactly for you, whereas Nadine dumbass was like, any bottle I can reach. God.
Yeah, because like they show the bottle for a reason. So the last one I put down, which I think is the very last one we have. So I put this one down because this one freaked me out. This is called The Duxorcist, and it was released in 1987. Obviously, it's a play on The Exorcist. So this one we have Daffy, who is a paranormalist at large, and he gets a call from this very pretty female duck who says that she's got problems with her appliances. And so he comes over, even though he's like, I don't deal with appliances, but he comes over anyways. I don't know why. And so when he goes into the house, the appliances are weird. The oven, like he looks inside the oven and it's Antarctica, very cold. He opens up the fridge and like he gets blasted with some fire. The appliances are really horribly wrong. But then he finally, because he comes in and he goes straight to the appliances. And then he's like, oh, there is something wrong with your appliances. He goes, but I'm not really an appliance guy. And he sees the girl and he realizes that she's cute or whatever. And so he's like, let's sit down and have a talk. And he's like, oh, do you have these Tupperware parties? Which I found that very offensive. And every time he's talking to her, he turns away from her while she's talking. And I was very upset because like, you're not giving this woman the attention she deserves. But also if you looked at her, you'd see that she keeps turning into this Jekyll Hyde sort of situation. And very, very quickly in the maybe like a 10-minute cartoon, but very quickly she's in exorcist mode with the head spinning and levitating and the demon talk and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I don't like this. It got real dark real fast.
Yeah.
And so
I'm kind of surprised they used all those things too. You know, like some kids' cartoons, man, we just did not care about the sensitivity of children.
For real, if I showed that to my daughter now, my sister would be like, Jennifer, you are a bad mom. And I'd be like, you know what? I am.
Because like I'm thinking about Gravity Falls and the weird triangle guy. Like I would not let a child younger than like a confident 8 or 10 watch that.
Yeah.
Like he's scary.
So scary. This by far freaked the shit out of me. And mind you, I didn't watch The Exorcist until I was 19 and it re-released in the theater. So I have no knowledge of The Exorcist at the time of this watching. And it was so scary. And he's like, okay, so I guess I gotta figure out how to do this. And he turns into like Freud and he's like, tell me what it is, what's been bothering you from your childhood. And he's trying to get it out of her that way. And of course he fails. And so he pulls out another book that's how to exorcise somebody. And he starts exercising, like doing jumping jacks and shit.
Damn, they really liked their puns, didn't they?
Yeah, they really did. And I was like, okay, that's funny. And of course, he had a little exercise book in the exorcising book. And so he finally gets around to reading the actual book and it tells him to use a joke. And so he starts with jokes. And each joke he tells, a different ghost comes out of the woman's body. 3 ghosts in total. And you're just like, okay, it's done. You're like, oh, good. It's over. It's done with. You're already scared, but you realize there's like 2 minutes left in the damn cartoon. You're like, what's going to happen next? And Daffy looks at the dumb book and it says, important advise or something like that. Make sure that the spirits have another body to go into, or make sure they're in a safe space so they don't inhabit another body. And dun, 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 they inhabit Daffy. He shakes him out, but he runs out of the house and they're chasing him down the street and the cartoon ends. And I was just like, this is such a freaking scary cartoon.
Yeah.
And I watched it today and I was like, why am I watching this again? I know that I didn't like this for various reasons and I'm watching it again like a dumbass.
I never saw that one.
It was really, really creepy. And I was just like, oh my God. But I had to include it because I was like, it's so scary. Then I got into a rabbit hole because, rabbit hole, Bugs Bunny. Because I saw that they did a couple other remakes they did one Invasion of the Bunny Snatchers, and that was more sci-fi. Yeah. And I wish I could talk about it, but like, Jennifer, you're already like so many pages in, like you can't. It's so much that happened in our childhoods that we consumed, apparently.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that you had access to so much more than I did, but then like it still did not keep me from diving headfirst into horror when I finally got access to it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Now that I look at it, like the fact that I had to take so much out for this episode, that I could probably fill like 2 or 3 more episodes, that's insane to me. Like, how did I have so much access to horror?
I'm curious too. I was such a latchkey kid. I had almost zero supervision a lot of my childhood. The best defenses I had were don't answer the door, like don't unlock the door.
Yeah.
Even if they show you a badge, that was my defenses growing up. And yet still I did not get overexposed to things. Like, wow, like my mom must have tried really freaking hard.
I guess or, so.
Maybe that plus a combination of like having no access or resources in general.
Yeah. I mean, that could be it. But also like my mom, and my dad, they love a good scare. I know my mom was pregnant with one of us when she saw The Exorcist, and I was like, why would you do that to yourself, ma'am? And she's like, I was at home alone. I thought it would be good. And then I called your dad because I was scared because we lived by a cemetery at the time. I'm like,
Oh, no.
why are you doing this?
Speaking of that, I went to go visit my mom today, and I was exiting the cemetery or the memorial place, and I noticed across the street from the burial site that there is a charter school, and I was like, no.
Mm-mm.
No, why would you do that?
Why would you do that? I don't get it.
It's not okay.
On my way to work, there is a cemetery. And so my daughter, every now and again, I pick her up from school and she has to come with me. And so just, I don't know, because she knows that like I freak out at some things, she goes, why are all the flowers there? And I was like, oh, well, that's a cemetery. And she was like, well, what's a cemetery? And I was like, huh. How do I do this? Because like telling her that's where a bunch of dead bodies are is not the way to go.
I mean, you could just tell her it's where dead people live.
Well, I told her, I was like, that's where you go to say goodbye to people that have died. And then I was like, that's all that I did. Because I was like, she doesn't need to hear the rest. Like,
that's a really good parent, because my first answer legitimately was, that's where dead people live. And that doesn't make any sense even grammatically. And you're like way more gentle about it.
Yeah, the questions now, like pregnancy has been brought up a lot. And so I have to really think about my answers because I don't want to have the sex talk yet because she is 7, but we're getting there. And I'm just like, oh my God. So I really have to think out my answers to her. And that's why it took me a good minute to be like, that's where we say goodbye to people. And she's like, oh, okay. No one tells you about this when you're pregnant. This is what I needed in sex ed in high school, like this kind of stuff.
Your child zeroes in somehow on your biggest fears and makes them worse.
Yeah, like,
but like innocently.
Yeah. Like, I guess with that we'll end because we've been here way too long.
Yeah, this could have been our super episode for December.
Oh
my God, it's gonna take me forever to edit.
And we did this on a Monday.
Shit, why did you say that? I forgot. It's not Sunday.
I don't know.
I've already lost a whole day of editing. Damn it. Okay, that's fine.
I need to go drink some more wine.
With that, guys, because I am terrible at managing my time as an adult, apparently, we should go.
Yeah, we're the worst. We'll see y'all in a couple weeks for the next episode.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
If you liked listening to us ramble on about horror, subscribe to our podcast and tell your friends. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at LLOTL Podcast.
Check out our website by going to lastlibraryontheleft.com. Be sure to visit our About Us page to discover our 2 truths and a lie. Or, if you'd like to send us an email, you can reach us at somethingwicked@lastlibraryontheleft.com.